This is my most prized possession. It's proof that I ran a 42.195 kilometer marathon in the wonderful city and my former home, Kobe, Japan. However, it was not an easy accomplishment, especially as I once looked like this, and this. So how did I go from being a 100 kilogram behemoth to defying my own expectations and running non-stop for 5 excruciating hours of pain? In this video, I'll detail how I lost 35 kilograms, trained for the big day, struggled through the big race, and the lessons that I learned along the way. And I'll be sharing my story while retracing the course of the original marathon here in the city of Kobe. Good morning and welcome to Kobe. I'm currently standing in Kobe Ijinkan, which was the original foreign settlement here in Kobe City. Being a port city, Kobe was an early gateway into Japan, and its foreign influence can still be felt. Dignitaries once called these European-style houses their homes, and now they're used as museums, wedding venues, and one of them is home to the most famous Starbucks in Japan. Don't mind if I do. Before I made the decision to move to Japan, in my hometown of Adelaide, I was pretty directionless in life when I was a university student, which led to overeating and led to me gaining a lot of weight. So when I turned 25, I went through a bit of a turning point in my life and realized I wanted to go on an overseas adventure. I'd always dreamed of teaching English overseas, so I set my sights on Japan. However, looking at videos of Japan, I saw that there were not actually many overweight people living in Japan, so I felt really self-conscious if I were to move there. So I made the decision to lose weight before moving to Japan. It was at this time in Adelaide where I strictly changed my diet and started running every day for 100 days in a row. My diet was pretty insane and I don't recommend it to anyone. I cut out bread, potato, rice, pasta, noodles. I remember my first run, I could only run about 400 meters and it just exhausted me. I remember getting shin splints and collapsing on the ground afterwards. But I kept at it, gradually increasing my distance day by day. Eventually I remember running my first full kilometer without stopping, and that made me pretty happy. Then after that I made it to 5 kilometers, then 10 and even 20. So in about 6 months I'd managed to lose more than 35 kilograms. Running became an absolute addiction and I realized that I wanted to run my first full marathon here in Japan. So what brings me here? Well, actually, I used to live in this area in a tiny company supplied apartment just over there. So this area was my training ground. So I remember late nights after work, I would get home and I'd either run 5 kilometers in that direction or 5 kilometers in that direction. Not much to see, but it was a really fun place to train. Let's head down the hill to the starting line. So this is the noisy and brand new Sanomiya Station Complex. It didn't look like this at all when I lived here. Sanomiya is essentially the center of Kobe, the main shopping district, and the marathon itself kicked off just down the street here. That's Higashi Yuenchi Park, and this is where the race kicked off. So as you can see, Kobe is the birthplace of marathon in Japan, and this is where the starting line of the marathon was, just over there on the street. That was where we started. So the day of the race, I surprisingly got a good night's sleep the night before, and it was in this spot here where we had to check into the race. I remember seeing one of my adult students from the English school I was working at, and I said hi to her in the morning, and the atmosphere was just absolutely electric. Everybody was lining up for the race saying "Ohayou gozaimasu" or "Ganbare" or "Faito, faito, faito" to each other. So it was just a really awesome atmosphere and incredibly motivating. So they gave us these yellow gloves to hold up. So at the beginning of the race they took a group picture of all of the racers holding their yellow gloves in the air. It was supposed to look like a sunflower and meant to represent friendship. I couldn't tell you why they chose the sunflower as the motif, but it was just a really fun thing, and I can't imagine any race anywhere in the world having such a strange tradition like that, like holding up gloves for everyone to see. It's pretty funny. So the gun sounded, off we went. It was really hard not to get caught up in the excitement. All of these people running, and on the sides they had taiko drummers, and they had jazz bands, and they had cheer squads. So the excitement was through the roof. As a result, I think I started running a lot faster than I should have. So I was burning way too much energy and way too much of my stamina at the beginning of the race. So these streets between Sannomiya and Motomachi were just full of people. It was like the entire population of Kobe had come out to support everybody. It was incredibly motivating and exciting. Let's keep going. I really don't think I'd ever been so excited in my entire life. All my training, all my weight loss had led to that very moment, and what better place to spend it than the city that I loved living in. We also ran past Kobe Chinatown, one of the 3 largest Chinatowns in Japan. There seem to be a lot of high school students here today on a field trip. I used to hang out here a lot, and once again, I don't mind if I do. As I ignominiously stand in the sun with millions of high school students behind me, this is shoronpo, or a miniature steamed bun. This particular kind of Chinese food was always very popular in Kobe when I was here, and it's a favorite snack of mine. Good fuel for running too. Let's see how it is. Tastes great. Also tastes a lot like the kind of food that I would eat when I was living in China too. I'm going to follow the marathon course via the sea, so get ready for a nice montage. And this is Akashi Kaikyo Bridge, the longest suspension bridge in the entire world. It connects the main island of Honshu to Shikoku via Awaji Island, which you can see just behind me. So in the race, unfortunately, we did not run over the bridge, but the bridge itself marked a turning point in the race itself. It's about 20 kilometers from Sannomiya. Not only was it the turning point in the race, but it's also an emotional turning point in the story. I often used to hang out in this area on weekends back in the day, and I often ran up and down the coastline to train for the race or just to run for fun. Must say, this has to be one of my favorite spots in Japan. I just love coming here. For this part of the story, I'm going to mix things up with a costume change using the most cliched editing technique there is. Are you ready? Whoa, look at that, next level special effects. So this is the shirt that I was given for the race, as well as this hat. For this part of the story, I'm going to be running along the coastline using stabilization chan and voiceover of God to do the heavy lifting. Before setting off, it's always a good idea to fuel up, so I have some energy jelly. You can buy this at any convenience store, and it's a great source of calories and energy for when you're going to run, cycle, surf, or do whatever you like. Alright, down the hatch. Tastes a lot like lime. So it was around this point where I was hitting the wall. The wall is what it sounds like, and is something even professional marathon runners grapple with. Not only is your body failing, but your brain is telling you to give up. Around this point, a lot of unfit runners were dropping out of the race, and the supporting crowd was starting to thin out. My legs, especially my knees, were in absolute agony like I'd never experienced. And the hardest part of all was my brain going to dark places. I guess because I'd never pushed my body to the limit before, my mind was telling me I was damaging my body and to give up. And most surprisingly, my mind just played some awful tricks on me. It kept throwing up dark images like those embarrassing moments I experienced during childhood, things that I regretted doing as a teenager, and most of all, flashbacks to the overweight and ashamed me. My brain was actually telling me that I would still always be that fat person inside and was not worthy of completing a marathon. It was around the 30-kilometer mark that I truly thought about yielding to that voice and giving up. But as we got further, the wonderful people of Kobe helped me through. Though the crowd was thin, people were offering snacks and drinks, offering to spray runners' legs with cooling spray, and yelling words of encouragement. Perhaps the funniest and most heartwarming moment to break through was an old man and what he yelled at me. Me being me, as white as they come, I think he wanted to yell, "Keep it up," in English. However, I think he got his words mixed up and instead he yelled, "Keep in touch." This was enough to make me laugh, put a smile back on my face, and that just filled me with light and I could keep going, that internal monologue forever silenced. And I've made it to Suma Station. To say that I'm absolutely knackered would be a very egregious understatement. It's been a while since I've run that far. I'm definitely not as fit as I once was back in November 2018. I think I need a Pocari sweat. That's better. Often came here on my days off just to watch the sunset or read a book or go for a swim. Yeah, one of my favorite spots in Kobe. So despite being a sweaty and sunburnt mess, I'm gonna get back on the train, go back to Sanomiya, shower, and then it's time for the climax of the story. Oh, don't mind me drying my invisible hair with my freshly sunburned arms. Time to head to the finish line. So where the race started is back there, but the course is not a perfect loop. It actually goes a bit further down the road, across a bridge to Port Island, an artificial island that stands between Sanomiya and Kobe Airport. So when we got to the bridge approaching the finish line, the mood was exciting once more. Because I was incredibly slow, well over 5 hours, the people finishing around the same time were those who'd done the race in costume, like this giant cup noodles and the robot Tetsujin 28. There's actually a giant statue of him on the course that we ran past. And most impressive of all, the elderly. Men and women nearly 3 times my age having run 42 kilometers, with probably a lot less complaining and negativity. Just inspiring stuff. So this is where the race ended, the Kobe International Exhibition Center. I crossed the line, they gave me my towel and my medal, and I limped into the facility. I remember I had to go down just 2 steps to get in, and even going down 2 steps was just excruciating. So yeah, that's the exact finish line right there. At the end, I met my friend Robert, and he took some photos of me. I could barely manage a smile, in absolute agony, but still elated in absolute disbelief at myself for actually being able to finish it. So we got on the train, and despite being betoweled and bemedaled, the train was absolutely full and no one would offer me a seat. So I had to stand, and I was talking to my friend Robert, just happy and laughing, and then suddenly my vision started to disappear, and then my hearing started to disappear, replaced with a high-pitched whine. So suddenly I felt like I was going to fall over, and I said to Robert, "Rob, I'm going to pass out." So Robert, being the awesome guy that he is, he just grabbed me. We got off at the next station, and I just collapsed onto the station platform. He ran off to get me some water, and a security guard came over and said, "Dojobu, dojobu," to which I replied, "Dojobu, dojobu." 5 minutes later, my vision, my hearing came back. I got back up, we got on the train, and we headed to Burger King. This Burger King right here. Don't mind if I do, for the 3rd time today. And that's the story of how I lost 35 kilograms, ran a marathon, nearly died, and ate a hamburger. Thanks for watching until the end, I really appreciate it. So, what did I learn from this whole sorry experience? Well, I've broken it down into 5 life lessons. Number 1, you can lose weight. I know it seems hard, but it is possible. Number 2, you can still achieve your goals even if they aren't quite what you expected. I wanted to get a time of under 4 hours, but my time was over 5. Even though it wasn't quite what I wanted, finishing the race is still a victory. Number 3, you can silence those dissenting voices in your head. You can dig deep to overcome adversity like I did when I hit the wall, and it does help to have a supportive community around you, like the people of Kobe who are cheering me on. Which brings me to my 4th point. The people of Japan are kind and caring people, especially those in Western Japan like Kobe. All of those words of encouragement and snacks and drinks that they were offering, I don't know if I could have finished the race without their support. And finally, age doesn't matter. I was 28 when I did this race, and I found it incredibly difficult, but seeing all those elderly people finish, I was just amazed. I mean, in this day and age, it's very easy to look at young people on social media and be jealous of their success, but an 80-year-old running a marathon is perhaps even more impressive. So even if you think you're too old to do something, it's never too late. I thought of this when I started my YouTube channel. So even though I'm already in my 30s and I should have started this YouTube channel ages ago, it's better late than never, and you're never too old to try something new. So, if that inspired you, I hope you'll subscribe for more. I also hope you'll share it with a friend who's in need of some motivation. So, thanks as always for watching. I look forward to seeing you again, and here's to an open world.
try that again.